Here is something wild. Your neighbor with one income is building wealth faster than you are with two. And I'm not talking about inheritance or some massive salary. I'm talking about regular people making less money than you but somehow ending up with more. How is that even possible? So in this video, here's what you're gonna learn. First, how two income can actually be worse than one. And I promise you, it's not what you think. Second, the specific money mistakes you're probably making in your own life right now without even realizing it. Third, what that one income guy knows that you don't know. The thing that's letting him build wealth while you're stuck spinning your wheels. Let me tell you about two families I know. We will call them the Johnsons and the Martinez family. 5 years ago, both families were in almost exact same spot financially. The Johnsons were making about $60,000 a year, just one income. Sarah working as a teacher. The Martinez family was making $65,000, also one income, with Carlos working in sales. Then things changed for the Johnsons. About a year in, Mike got a job, started at 40,000. Then Sarah got a raise. Then Mike got promoted. Within 5 years, their household income went from 60,000 to $120,000. They doubled their money. The Martinez family pretty much stayed the same. Carlos got some raises here and there, but they are still basically a $65,000 household. So here's my question for you. Which family do you think has more money saved up after 5 years? Think about it. One family doubled their income, the other family stayed flat. Which ones got more in the bank? If you guessed the Johnsons with their $120,000 income, you would be wrong. The Martinez family, the one that stayed at 65,000, has $40,000 saved up. The Johnsons, $2,000. Let me say that again. The family that makes almost half as much has 20 times more savings. So what happened to the Johnsons? Here's the thing. When Mike got that first job, they sat down and had a conversation. They said, okay, we're making $40,000 more dollars a year. That's huge. Let's figure out what to do with this money. And they had good intentions. They really did. They said things like, we will save most of it and we will be smart about this. But then something weird started happening. First, it was the car. They had been sharing one car for years and it was fine. A little annoying sometimes, but fine. But now with Mike working across town, sharing one car meant Sarah was getting up at 5:30 in the morning to drive him to work, then driving back across town to her school. So they got a second car. Makes sense, right? That's not lifestyle inflation. That's just practical. Then it was the apartment. They had been in a two-bedroom place. Pretty small, kind of far from both their jobs. But now they could afford something nicer, something closer to work so they were not spending 2 hours a day commuting. A place with a little home office since Mike was sometimes working from home, again totally reasonable, right? Then Mike needed work clothes. Can't show up to an office job in t-shirts. So that's a few $100 at first. Then over time it's more because you need variety. Then they started eating out more. And here's how it happened. It was like they decided we make more money, now let's eat out all the time. It's that they were both working. Sarah's getting home at 5, Mike's getting home at 6, and nobody wants to cook. So they would grab takeout just once or twice a week at first. Then it's 3 times, then it's 5 times because honestly, who has the energy? Then it was the coffee. Sarah used to make coffee at home, but now she's rushing out the door early to beat traffic. And there's the Starbucks right by school, and it's just easier to grab it there. $5 a day does not sound like much. That is $25 a week, $100 a month, $1,200 a year on coffee. Then the gym membership, because they are both sitting all the day now and they need to stay healthy. Then the streaming services because they need to unwind at night. Then better phones because they are using them for work. Then the occasional house cleaner because they are working all the time and the apartment's a mess. None of these things by themselves are crazy. Every single one of them makes sense when it happens. But here's what nobody tells you. Every income level has a new normal. Yeah, new normal. When you're making $60,000, your brain creates a picture of what life looks like at that level. You know what you can afford. You know what's realistic. You know what's too expensive. But when you jump to $100,000, your brain does not just add 40,000 to your savings. Your brain recalibrates. It creates a new picture of normal. And in that new picture, all kinds of things that used to be luxuries are now just what people at your income level do. You start looking at your friends who make similar money. You start seeing what's normal for them, and suddenly the $100 a month car payment becomes $250 car payments. The $1,200 apartment becomes an $1,800 apartment. The $10 a week grocery coffee becomes $60 a month at Starbucks. And here's the real sneaky part. There are these categories that just appear out of nowhere when your income goes up. Convenience. That is the big one. When you're broke, you have time. You can spend 3 hours on Sunday meal prepping. You can take the bus and save on gas. You can cut your own hair. But when you are making good money, and you're working 50 hours a week, time becomes more valuable than money. So you start buying time back, and that's expensive. Upgrades. This one's subtle. You're not buying new categories of stuff. You're just buying nicer version of what you already had. Instead of the $30 shoes, you get the $80 shoes because they last longer and they look more professional. Instead of the cheap paper towels, you get the good ones because you can afford it now and they work better. Every single item in your life gets a little upgrade, and those little upgrades add up to thousands of dollars. Deserve it purchases. This is the killer. You work hard, you're putting in the hours, you deserve to treat yourself, right? You deserve the nice dinner on Friday, you deserve the weekend trip, you deserve the good bottle of wine, and you deserve those things. I'm not saying you don't, but deserve is a dangerous word when it comes to money, because there's no limit to what you can convince yourself you deserve. Now here's where people push back. I can hear you thinking it right now, but we need these things now that we make more. And you know what? Sometimes that's true. Sometimes the second car genuinely is necessary. Sometimes the nicer apartment closer to work saves you 10 hours a week of commuting, and that's worth it. But here's the question you got to ask. If all these things are necessary because you make more money, then why do the Johnsons making 120,000 feel just as broke as they did when they made 60,000? Because here is what actually happened. The first 40,000 that Mike brought in, they thought they would save 30,000 and spend 10,000 on necessary stuffs. But the necessary stuff turned out to be 15,000, then 20, then 30. And the deserve it purchases, those were not in the budget at all. Within 2 years of going from $60,000 to $100,000, the Johnsons were spending $95,000 a year. Not because they were being stupid, not because they were buying crazy luxury stuff, but because their life had reshaped itself around their new income. And Sarah got her raise, $10,000 more a year, and you know what happened to the $10,000? It vanished into exact same back hole. Little bit nicer car, little bit nicer apartment, few more conveniences, few more upgrades, few more things they deserved. By the time they hit 120,000, they were spending 118,000. They had $2,000 in savings after 5 years of doubling their income. Meanwhile, the Martinez family is sitting at 65,000, and you know what they are spending? 57,000. Same lifestyle, inflation pressures, same temptations, same deserve it voice in their heads. But somehow they have kept their spending 8,000 below their income, year after year, and that gap turned into 40,000 in savings. So the trap is not making more money. The trap is that your spending grows to match whatever you make, unless you deliberately stop it. Okay, so lifetime inflation is the trap. But here's what makes it even worse. There's a second income tax that nobody tells you about, and it's absolutely crushing dual income households. So let's talk about this second income tax, because this is the thing that makes the dual income trap even worse than you think. When Mike got that job making $40,000 a year, the Johnsons did the math in their heads. They thought, okay, we're making 60,000 now. Mike's bringing in 40,000. That puts us at 100,000 total. We're gonna have so much more money. But here's the thing, they never actually sat down and calculated what the second income really netted them after all the costs that came with it. So let's do that math right now. Let's take a second income of $50,000 and break down what you actually keep. $50,000, that's the number on the offer letter. That's what goes on your tax return. That's the number in your head when you're thinking about what you can afford. But first, taxes. And this is where it gets ugly, because the second income does not get taxed like a first income. It gets taxed at your marginal rate, the top rate you're already paying. So if your household is already making 60,000, that second 50,000, a lot of it getting taxed at 22% federal, plus state, plus FICA. You're looking at losing at least 12,000 to taxes, probably more like 15,000 depending on your state. So now we are down to 35,000. But wait, now you have got 2 people working, which means if you have got 2 kids, you need childcare. The average cost of daycare in the United States is around $12,000 a year per kid. Even if you have got 1 kid, even if you found something cheaper, you're looking at 10,000 minimum. Now we are at 25,000. Next up, commuting. You've got second car now, right? That car costs you insurance, gas, maintenance, parking. Let's be conservative and say that's 3,000 a year, down to 22,000. Then there's work clothes. You need to look professional. That's call it $1,000 a year. 21,000. Now the big thing that nobody thinks about, convenience spending. This is everything you're buying because you don't have time anymore. The takeout because you're too tired to cook. The grocery delivery instead of going to the cheaper store. The house cleaner because the place is disaster and you work 60 hours a week between both of you. Study after study shows that dual income households spend about 20 to 30% more on the same lifestyle than single income households. Not because they are buying more stuff, because they are buying conveniences. Let's be conservative and say there's 4,000 a year in extra convenience spending, down to 17,000. Then meals out. I mean the lunches you're buying at work because you didn't have time to pick anything. The coffee you're grabbing on the way in. When you're home, you make coffee for 50 cents. When you're working, you're spending $5 at Starbucks. That's over $1,000 a year just on coffee. And in work, lunches. And you're easily at 3,000 a year, 14,000 left. So let me recap this for you. You took a job making $50,000 a year. After taxes, childcare, second car, work clothes, convenience spending, and meals out, you're netting $14,000. 14,000 out of 50. That second income that you thought was bringing in 50,000, it's actually bringing in 14. And honestly, for a lot of families, it's even less than that. But here's a psychological trap that makes that even worse. You see the gross, you spend the gross, but you keep the net. What does that mean? It means when Mike got that $40,000 job, the Johnsons saw 40,000, but felt like a $100,000 household. They started spending like a $100,000 household. They moved into the nicer apartment, they got the nicer cars, they upgraded their lives to match that $100,000 number in their heads. But in reality, after all those costs, Mike's job was netting them maybe 12,000 a year, maybe 15,000, maybe 15 if they were really careful. So they upgrade their spending by 30,000 to match their new income level. But their actual take home only went up by 12,000. And that gap, that $18,000 gap, that's why they are broke. You are spending to your gross income but living on your net income. And the gap between those two numbers is where your money disappears. And then there is what I call the time poverty tax. This is the thing nobody talks about. When you have got two people working, you don't have time. You're not just busy, you're time poor. And when you're time poor, you make expensive decisions constantly. You order groceries delivered instead of going to 3 different stores to get the best prices. You buy the pre-cut vegetables instead of cutting them yourself. You pay for gift wrapping because you don't have time to do it at home. You take your car to the expensive quick-load place because you need it done today and you don't have time to shop around. Every single one of these decisions is small. Every single one of them makes sense in the moment, but they add up to thousands of dollars a year. And here's the thing that makes even worse. Dual income households spend more on the same lifestyle as single income households. It's not that you are living larger, it's that you are paying more to live the same. Think about it. The Martinez family making $65,000 with one income. Maria is home during the day. She can meet the repairman when rates are cheaper. She can go to the grocery store on Tuesday morning when it's empty. And she can take her time finding deals. She can cook dinner from scratch. She can handle all the random life stuff during business hours. The Johnsons making $120,000 with two incomes, both working, so the repairman has to come after 5. Which costs more. Groceries are getting delivered or bought on Saturday when the store has packed. And they just grab whatever is closest. Dinner's getting ordered and all the random life stuff, they are either taking time off work or paying someone else to handle it. Same life, same needs, higher cost. So here is what this all adds up to. The second income that you think is making you richer is actually making you broker. They don't show up on a separate sheet labeled costs of the second income. They just show up as life getting more expensive. And you look at your budget and you think, how are we spending this much? We make 6 figures. Where's all the money going? It's going to taxes you didn't account for. Childcare you underestimated. Convenience you didn't realize you were buying. Time poverty you did not know was costing you money. The second income tax is real, and for a lot of families, it's eating 50 to 70% of that second paycheck. So if the second income is getting eaten alive by hidden costs, and lifestyle inflation is scaling with both incomes, what's the one income guy doing differently? Here's the thing. It's not about making less, it's about something way more important. So what's the Martinez family doing that the Johnsons aren't? Because it's not about making less money. That's not the secret. The secret is something completely different. Here's what happened with the Martinez family. About 6 months after the Johnsons got that second income, Marlia actually had a job opportunity. It was a solid over $35,000 to do admin work at a local company. And her and Carlos sat down and had a real conversation about it. Not just should we take the money, but what would taking this money actually mean for our life? They did the math. 35,000 sounds great, but after taxes, after childcare for their daughter, after the second car they would need, after all the convenience costs, they figured they had actually net about 10,000 a year, maybe 12. And then they asked themselves a different question. What would we do with that 10,000? And the answer was honest. They would probably spend most of it. Nicer apartment, nicer cars, more eating out, life would getting a little easier, a little more comfortable. But then Carlos said something that changed everything. He said, what if we just live like we are making 10,000 less than we are right now and save that instead? And that's what they did. They chose their lifestyle ceiling deliberately. Here's what that means. Most people let their lifestyle rise to whatever their income is. You make 60,000, you spend 60,000. You make 100,000, you spend 100,000. Your spending expands like a gas to fill whatever container you put it in. But the Martinez family did something different. They said we're making 65,000. We're going to live like we make 55,000. And that $10,000 grab, that's untouchable. They called it lifestyle lock. They decided their enough point before their income had a chance to increase. And here's the thing, it wasn't about deprivation. They were not living like they were poor. They just made intentional decisions about what mattered. They kept their smaller apartment, but it was clean and nice. They kept one car and worked their schedules around it. Maria cooked most nights, but not because they couldn't afford takeout. Because they decided home-cooked meals were where they wanted their time to go. They took vacations, but they were road trips and camping instead of flights and hotels. They looked at their life and said, this is good, this is enough, we don't need more than this. And every time Carlos got a raise, every time there was a bonus, every time there was extra money, it had one destination, savings. That's it. Because here's the game changer. They have designed their one income life so well that any second income would be pure wealth building. Think about that for a second. If Maria took that $35,000 job and they actually kept their spending where it was, that whole net amount, that 10 or 12,000 a year would be going straight to building wealth. In 5 years, that's $60,000 saved. In 10 years, with compound interest, that's over $150,000. But it only works if you lock your lifestyle first. Most people do it backwards. They take the second income, let their lifestyle inflate to match it, and then try to save whatever's left over. And what's left over is always zero. There's always something else to spend it on. The Martinez family did it forwards. They locked the lifestyle, they added income on top, and the income had nowhere to go except savings. Now let me show you how to actually do this. Because this is not just theory. This is a real system you can see. Step 1. Calculate your actual take home from a second income. Do the real math, not the dream math. Check the salary, subtract the actual taxes at your marginal rate, subtract childcare if you have kids, subtract commuting costs, work costs, and the convenience costs. What's the actual number you're netting? For a lot of people, it's 40 to 50% of the gross. That number, that real number, that's what you're working with. Step 2. Design your one income life. Whether you have one income or two incomes, design your life like you have living on one income. If you're dual income household making 100,000 total, design a life that works on 60,000. And I don't mean suffer. I mean genuinely design a life you love at lower number. Find the apartment that works, figure out the food situation, make it good, make it sustainable. Because here's the thing, if you can't be happy at your current income level, you won't be happy at a higher level one either. You will not just have nicer stuff while being equally stressed about money. Step 3. Every raise, every bonus, every second income goes to one destination only. Not mostly savings, one destination. Decide it in advance. For most people, that destination should be pay off debt, build emergency fund, then invest. The lifestyle you design, there's your ceiling. It does not move when your income moves. Carlos got a $5,000 raise last year. Their rent didn't go up. Their car didn't get nicer. That $5,000 went straight to the savings account. The Johnsons got a combined $10,000 raise last year. And somehow they are spending more than they did the year before because they didn't have a ceiling. Now here's a practical action you can take right now. I call it the 90-day spending baseline. For the next 90 days, track every single dollar you spend, not to judge it, just to know. Most people have no idea what they actually spend. You can't look your lifestyle if you do not know what your lifestyle costs. At the end of 90 days, you're gonna see some stuff that surprise you. And then you're gonna make a choice. You're gonna look at spending and say, this is my enough point, this is my ceiling. Because here is what the Martinez family figured out that the Johnsons didn't. Wealth isn't built by making more money. Wealth is built by keeping the gap between what you make and what you spend. You can save the gap at $65,000 a year. You can have it at $100,000. You can have it at $200,000. But if you do not choose to create it, you will never have it, no matter how much you make. The one income guy is not winning because he makes less. He's winning because he decided what enough looked like and he stopped there. And every dollar about that enough point, that's not lifestyle, that's wealth. Now I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great, but the next video you need to watch is why things work differently after 20K. Because once you cross that threshold, money works completely different. And if you have got two incomes, you're way past that point. Watch that next.